It's June the 7th, 2011. Just 4 months before his death, one of the greatest minds of the 21st century stands in front of the Cupertino Local Council. His speech unveils to the public one last project he intends to accomplish.
Apple's growing like a weed. And as you know, we've always been in Cupertino. Started in a little office park and eventually got the buildings we are in now at the corner of Deanza and 280. And those buildings hold maybe 2,600 people, 2,800 people. But we've got almost 12,000 people in the area. So we're renting buildings, not very good buildings either, at an ever greater radius from our campus.
Thus, the need for a new, larger campus was an ever-pressing matter. Simultaneously, Hewlett-Packard, one of the most influential companies in Silicon Valley, was downgrading and decided to put up for sale a large plot of land in Cupertino. It eventually ended up being bought by Apple. Not only was its location of great value, being situated just a few blocks away from the present office buildings, it was also emotionally tied to Steve Jobs' youth.
When I was 13, I think, I called up Hewlett and Packard were my idols. And I called up Bill Hewlett because he lived in Palo Alto. And he picked up the phone and I talked to him and I asked him if he'd give me some spare parts for something I was building called a frequency counter. And he did, but in addition to that, he gave me something way more important. He gave me a job that summer, a summer job at Hewlett-Packard, right here in Santa Clara off 280, a division that built frequency counters. And I was in heaven. Well, right around that exact moment in time, Hewlett and Packard themselves were walking on some property over here in Cupertino, in Prune Ridge, and they ended up buying it. And they built their computer systems division there. And as Hewlett-Packard has been shrinking lately, they decided to sell that property and we bought it.
By the early 2000s, Apple was growing rapidly. When the company began conceptualizing their new headquarters, they wanted the building to embody Apple's identity. Steve Jobs believed that the physical separation of different teams of people degrades innovation. This was one of the main reasons for the circular design of Apple Park. Its circular design resonates the qualities of the company. A circle is whole, continuous, and unbroken. Its shape implies completeness, a kind of unified perfection.
And we've come up with a design that puts 12,000 people in one building. You think about that, that's rather odd. 12,000 people in a building.
So across the United States, suburban corporate campuses have somewhat fallen out of fashion. A large number of companies have returned to central cities, where it is believed that young, educated individuals prefer to work. Apple and Silicon Valley as a whole have largely bucked this trend, with Apple Park being a testament to this. Apple have partnered with one of the best architectural firms in the world to design a truly unique campus. Norman Foster is one of the most influential contemporary architects behind some of the most unique buildings in the world. His designs are characterized by an evolving modern aesthetic and high emphasis on the functionality of the building. These qualities are closely related to Apple's own design philosophy. To conceptualize the project, Foster worked closely with Steve Jobs and Johnny Ive, then Apple's chief design officer. These three individuals would create a partnership unlike any other. The 2.8 million square foot ring-shaped building brings together a wide array of spaces, from hard-walled offices for optimal concentration to open-plan pods enhancing collaboration. The open-plan floor space gives access to employees to self-relocate depending on the available desks. The circular ring encloses a central courtyard accessible from the entire circumference of the building. characterized by a large pond, fruit trees, and winding pathways. This was a feature that Steve Jobs notably wanted to allow individuals from completely different fields of work to have chance encounters, sparking innovation. The building is split into 9 sections separated by light-filled atria. The building houses much of the 12,000 employees spread over its 4 stories. The entire building is covered with glass, immersing the employees into the landscape. Around the inner and outer rims are walkways, giving easy access to the different sections of the building. Apple used its experience in designing retail buildings all over the world to create the largest glass panels used for architectural purposes, giving the building its seamless skin. Protruding out from each floor of the building are glass shades, diminishing solar heat gain and glare. The walls are also essential to the natural ventilation system of the building. Ventilation ducts allow fresh air to enter the building, with a series of louvers to regulate the flow of air. The natural lighting and ventilation systems employed in Apple Park reduce the need for artificial lighting and forced HVAC systems. Taking a look at Apple Park from above, you can admire the solar roof of the buildings. The solar panels installed are enough to generate 17 megawatts of power, sufficient to power 75% of the building during peak hours. The entire campus is powered by sources of renewable energy, the majority being the solar roof we just mentioned. An additional 4 megawatts are generated by fuel cells powered by biofuel or natural gas, which we'll be covering very soon. With only 20% of the 175 acres of land being built environment, that leaves significant space for landscaping. Steve Jobs took this task to immense detail. A staggering 9,000 trees were planted, including indigenous species such as apricot, olive, and apple orchards that are well adapted to the climate and resistant to droughts. The parkland is also characterized by walkways, including a 2-mile running path. The majority of the parking is situated underground, accessible through these tunnels. The city's building regulations required at least 11,000 parking spaces. However, Apple Park's design accommodates a staggering 14,200 spaces, 700 of which have access to electric charging. An intelligent parking system manages the traffic flowing in and out of the parking. Apart from the existing underground parking, Apple had to construct 2 adjacent buildings for more parking spaces. One place which is accessible to outsiders is the Steve Jobs Theater. It consists of a large above-ground lobby with access to the 1,000-seat auditorium underground. Just as the main building, the 165-foot diameter lobby is entirely covered by glass walls, giving an unhindered view of the surrounding campus to visitors. Another feature is the saucer-shaped carbon fiber roof. The auditorium is intended for Apple events such as product launches and music events. For Apple employees who have never worked with Steve Jobs, Apple Park stands as a manifestation of the man's legacy, one that will serve as the company's home for decades to come. As with every ambitious project, criticism is unavoidable. Certain employees, such as software engineers, have criticized the open plan design as it hinders their ability to focus effectively. However, one thing is certain: Apple Park is a masterpiece of architecture and sustainability. But what do you think? Would you call Apple Park your workplace? Let me know in the comment section below. But in the meantime, watch one of these videos next, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!